Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're just gonna give everybody a second to come on in the room and join us.
Come on. I'm just full of words tonight.
Okay. All right, welcome everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started. It's right at the top of the hour. I'm Dr. Kat, and this is BIA Network. We're live on Facebook tonight, and to our surprise, and we're really excited, we have the Turners with us. Yay! Do you guys know how to do your claps and the emojis? Give us a smile. Let us know you're out there. Just say yay. Welcome to Turners. There we go. I see it.
Ah, nice little set of hands. Look at it.
So before we really get into it, I want to take a moment, and part of a project that we worked on together was BIPOC in America. And BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. It's a web-based docuseries that really focuses on capturing the stories of everyday people of color right now. So it's not for entertainment. It really is live and living history, one for the books. So let me take a moment just to kind of introduce the Turners to you. If you want to see their full bio, please join our Facebook page or on Instagram, BIA Network. But the couple, you guys have been married 43 years?
This November will be 43 years.
Congratulations on that, and we'll love to hear more about that. And you, as a couple, you do some work together, but you also served in the U.S. Army and the military. So
Yes,
thank you
that's
for your
correct.
service,
Yes.
both. You do some life coaching, mentoring, relationships. You do it all, really just helping people be their best that they can be.
Absolutely.
You also have written some books, and you write them together. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But just welcome, and like I said, if you want to see both more, the Turners, go to our Facebook page and Instagram. So just to kind of kick us off, and I want everyone out there too to chime in. Could you tell us one thing that you've accomplished so much that you still struggle with? I know for me, it's defrosting my windows. I can't, in my car, I can't. Today it was foggy. I couldn't figure out how to defrost the windows. It just stresses me out. Do you have anything that's really hard for you to do, or you still haven't tackled, that you still working through?
Well, I guess I'm not very computer savvy. So I just recently got a new computer because I changed my site from my marriage and family therapy. And I feel like such an idiot. I have to ask the IT person for little things, and he'll come over and just click. I'm like, that's it, you know? And it's like, oh, will I ever get this? It seems so easy when they do it, but I don't know what I'm doing. What about you?
Yeah.
And with me, you know, I didn't go to school for computers, but fixing something that's broke is sort of my thing, you know. I just love those challenges because it helps me to figure things out, and because I know that it's important to her. So I'll take it, think about it for a moment, and 2 + 2 be 4. It all seems like it works out.
Well, what about for you guys out there? Is there anything, could you just pop it in the chat so we can kind of get an idea and not feel so alone? I know just you sharing that makes me feel better when I'm still struggling to defrost those windows. So let's move a little bit and we'll see what people pop in the chat as we go along. But you've done some work, like I said before, writing a book on the Tuskegee Airmen. And we want to hear more about that for sure and how we can get a copy. But why do you think it's important? Do we really have an obligation to capture the stories of history as it relates to people of color? Just share with us some of your thoughts.
Well, one of the things that I look at is our ancestors got us this far. I think about my mom. I always remember her telling me, she said, "Buh," she called me Buh. The best I can do is get you through high school, and after that, you're on your own. And I felt like that she did a great job because she was just being honest with me. And I wish I had spent more time with her. We have so much, not only just past history, there's so much history still yet to be written in the making. And even what we're doing right now is we're making history, and we really need to tell our stories. And it just amazes me that so many people have so much talent that we sort of take it for granted and not highlight them. A lot of our young people have so much talent, and we need to highlight them. That we need to write our story, because if no one can tell our story like we can. And when life gives you an opportunity to do something great, take advantage of it. Don't just sit on the sideline. Because see, you have to realize that before we came here, everything that we would ever need was already placed inside of us before we left our mother's womb. Now, once we got here, we had to figure out, and some things come simple, some things come easy to us, and we wonder, why is it that I enjoy doing this? I enjoy doing that. I enjoyed sitting around talking to some of the elders. You know, some of the people in our own community are 80 and 90 and 100 years old, and some of them have gone through some stuff. And it's good when they tell their stories. That's awesome. But it's even better when they can articulate it to us. We put it in writing with the pictures, and we provide them a copy of that, something that they can carry on until. And that's why it's important that we highlight each other's accomplishments, write their stories, because they have a story to tell.
Absolutely. And stories have a way of transporting us to that location of what was there. You know, we're here now, but as we consider, like when the Tuskegee Airman, Mr. Hall, when I wrote his book, I could, in my mind, I could see things that he would have possibly felt, and the things that he went through. It's like it moves me into that place where I can think how challenging it may have been for him. And for us people of color especially, so much of our history is unknown anyway. You know, it's just not known. We don't even know where we came from, most of us. But if we could just somehow capture those stories, as Clarence was saying, especially for those older people, you know, I really like to, especially if they're in a good mind, I like to just sit and listen. Just listen. And if I can get a recording and take it to a book, then I have something that I can pass on to the next generation, you know, because they'll talk to the family, they'll talk to, you know, just talk about it. But if I've got something in writing, something I can provide for their children and their children's children, years later, they can say, hey, this was your uncle so-and-so, or this is what he was. For instance, I have a friend who didn't find out that her uncle was a Tuskegee Airman until he passed away, when they read the obituary. And I thought, oh man. And there were so many accomplishments of people of color that went unrecognized, unnoticed. And so now we're on this side trying to figure out Did we have any part in this American history? We realized that we had just about all of it was us, but there's nothing notated.
Yes, American history is our history.
Absolutely.
Dr. King said, what was that quote? That I can't be all that I can be until I help you be all that you can be. And that's the way that I see it. And I encourage Annette all the time to be the best at what she does. And I encourage everybody that's listening tonight, be the best. You were called for such a time as this. You're a purpose. There's a purpose in you. You know, don't let other people define who you are. You know who you are. Don't let other people discourage you. Don't do that. You have to learn to say, you know what? I am somebody. I am somebody. And I refuse to allow other people to tell me, well, I have to validate you. That was done long before you came here. Now you just have to recognize who you are for yourself.
Well, and I really like how you put some context to it and just really shared why it was important. For those of us who may not know who the Tuskegee Airmen were, could you just tell us a little bit about who they were and what it means to, like you said, American history, and then in terms of BIPOC people?
Okay. Well, some of us know, but anyway, the Tuskegee Airmen, it started out to be a project. And it was started to prove that they wanted to prove that the Black Americans didn't have the capacity. They weren't smart enough, if you will, to be able to fly an airplane, to work on an airplane, to do anything like this. So it was an experiment to see if it would really work. And then once that got started, when the funds were made available through Eleanor Roosevelt was the main one that put it out there as saying, come on, she went and visited the airline, the air port, wherever it was, and found out that they were able to do it. So she was able to get more funding, so more training could be given. Well, they found out that not only were they smart enough to fly the plane, but they were smart enough to work on the planes. They were given the same training as their white counterparts and exceeded them in doing the work, which was amazing. So once that was realized, thanks to the NAACP, the Black press, they put it out there for everybody to hear and to see. We realized that had it not been for them being vulnerable enough, I'll say, to fight hard enough, to persevere hard enough, to just give it all they got, they realized that in order to prove the society wrong, they had to be better than their counterparts.
And they couldn't fight back. They weren't allowed to fight back in that way, in a way that they were called names or ridiculed or whatever, that they could lash out at them. So they had to set a standard for themselves, and that everyone from a cook all the way to the pilot, and they had six goals that we really appreciate them providing even then. And those 6 was aim high, believe in yourself, use your brain, be ready to go, never quit. And lastly, expect to win. You'll be in it to win it. Are you hearing me? Be in it to win it. And that's what everybody that's on this call, be in it to win it. Expect to win. You know, so the people that the ground crew, the mechanics on the airplane, do you realize how intelligent and how smart they had to be in order to keep those birds in the air? Those pilots who mastered their craft, their profession, so that they can keep them planes moving. And they realized that, oh my God, they really are. And again, no one wanted to give them the accolades that they deserve. You see? So what we have to do today, we have to make sure that when we find these individuals, doesn't matter. Somebody said, well, I'm just a cook. Well, you be the best cook. Well, I'm just a school teacher. Well, you be the best school teacher. Well, I'm just a mechanic. Well, be the best mechanic. Who said you can't do it? Who said you couldn't do it? Who told you that? The devil is a lie.
And I want to add to that, we need to quit saying I'm just.
I'm just.
I'm just this. I'm just that. I'm just a mechanic. Don't put no just in front of it. When you put just in front of it, it makes it seem small. No, I'm not just. I'm not just Annette. I am Annette. Okay. We need to be, thanks to those who come before us, we realize that we can live our life with dignity and purpose. You know, that's it. That's some of the advantages of capturing those stories. We realize that we can draw on their experiences and find strength in ourselves to go on and go that extra mile, to go on and be what we have an obligation to capture these stories and to learn from them and to grow from these stories.
Their winning spirit lives in us.
Yes.
And it's telling us, go on now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes, you can. Yes, I can. Who said you couldn't do that? Who told you couldn't do that?
Yeah.
No, you are somebody. And you got to recognize that. Harriet Tubman, when she was interviewed, they asked her, Ms. Tubman, how many slaves do you think, paraphrasing, do you think that you delivered out of bondage, out of slavery? And she thought about it. I can see a picture now. Well, I don't really know, but I probably could have delivered a lot more had they known that they were slaves. So you have to know your history, who you are. Who are you? Do you not know you come from the seed of Abraham? Do you not know that you come from the seeds of kings and queens?
Yes.
You are somebody. You got to recognize that. Stop letting people look down their nose. You might look down your nose at me today, but tomorrow you'll be looking for me for a job. Yes, you are somebody. Lord help me.
Well, thank you for that. And I really can tell the connection that you have with people and just through your messaging and through your experience. So my next question deals with the relationship work that you do. Being married for 43 years and just why is it so important for couples to work together? What tidbits do you have for us out here? How does it work? How do you make it last forever?
Well, no.
Well, oh well.
Well, our question was more relating to people of color, but this is always true for anyone who wants to have a good relationship. I specifically want to talk about the people of color, though, because when we see a lot of our media portrays us with just some kind of way that's not very promising, I'll say. And so one thing that I want to stress, especially people of color, is that for most of our lives, as when the slaves, they were torn apart, their family could not stay together. It was not because they didn't want to, but the slave owners would just take their children, separate the husband and wife, just for, and so here we are in today's society. We've got this mentality that everything's got to be just perfect or we can't make it. And I'm not necessarily just people of color, but people, period. So we were talking about that, thinking about what it really takes to have a prosperous, healthy, balanced relationship. And so we had three things that we had noted, even several things that we noted that is so important. And the main one is communication. Because you need to be open and free with each other, talk about everything with each other. You need to be good friends. Because if I don't know you, if I don't know you, then I have it's a disadvantage for me. It's easy for me to get knocked off if I don't like you at first. John Gottman, he and his wife, Dr. Gottman, have done studying marriage and relationships for years, for 40 some years. And one of the first things that he puts on his steps for a good relationship is becoming good friends. Because if we're good friends, I'll tell you anything, we're good. But if I don't like you, if you're not my friend, how can we really build this relationship? A lot of times we want to jump into a relationship before we even get to know each other. You know, we get sidetracked, whatever.
And another thing is we wear this mask. When you first meet someone, you want to be on the best behavior. You date for a while, still on that best behavior. But as Dr. Maya Angelou, the late Dr. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And what did Oprah add? The first time. Because when you see those little things that they do, and it's like, oh, I'll just blow that off.
Yeah.
Then something else happened. Probably didn't mean that. But you've got to be able to lay it out on the table. There's no shame. When I met Annette, when we met, I was just as kooky
as he is now. Has not changed one iota.
I have, you know, I was just being real. You know, what you see was what you got. But the thing is just being real. And some people have a difficult time being honest.
Yeah.
Some people have a difficult time because they do their best to keep that mask on. But at some point, that mask starts slipping. And then next thing you know, it's off. Now it could be off for a good reason, or it could be a negative. If it falls off and you see them for who they are, believe them. Yeah. Now, it's up to you. That's where communication is so important. There are no perfect relationships, but you know what? You should be striving and pressing towards that mark of a great relationship, a perfect. Talk about everything. Lay it all out. Because you both come from different trees, different branches. Yeah. And so, you know, you find out that Uncle Bud was a hot mess. Aunt Susan was, Lord, that's who I'm in the family with. Lord, help us here. But you have to support each other. Yeah. And I'm not talking about this 50-50 thing. I'm talking about 100-100. You know, giving all that you have for that 100. Like me, I like doing laundry. I do. You do. I fold everything a certain way. And she'll tell you, if she slip up in and do the laundry and she didn't let me know. Just the other day I did it.
Look, I go walking every morning and I only got a couple, you know, sweat stuff to wear. So I was like, the next day I'll just go in and watch this little load. For most of the evening, he was upset. I'm like, what's wrong with him? And finally he said, well, I guess you're doing the laundry, huh? I'm like, I needed to wash my thing. I didn't think anything about it. But that's my job.
That's my 100 that I like to do.
That's true.
You know?
And I know that you guys have on your Facebook where you go on, is it weekly where you go and you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, we just mainly reason that we do that is we want to give people something to think about. You know, because anybody can just talk, but I want to jog your mind to realize the potential that's in yourself, you know, because I think a lot of times we're down, like Clarence was saying, we're down on ourselves. Sometimes we just say, it's just me or whatever, but we don't realize that there's hidden potential laying there. You know, scripture says, stir up the gift. So one of my goals is to make you think enough, to make you ponder and wonder enough that you'll start changing the way you think and realize that I might be able to do that, or maybe I've been taught wrong, or let me consider to study a little bit more, or look into that a little bit more. Not that we're there to tell you this is right or this is wrong, but for you to consider it and think for yourself so you can come up with your own truth that's for you. You know, because a lot of times we talked about that one day. If you've been told a lie all your life, when the truth comes, it's inconceivable. But you have to have a hunger for truth. Because if you hunger and thirst for it, you will get it. Now it's up to you to decide whether you're going to respond to it, whether you're going to listen to it, what are you going to do with this truth now that you got it. You know, but some people, now once you come to know a truth and you come to know more about it, you can't go back and act like you don't know. It's always going to be in your heart. So that's what we're really doing, is giving people something to think about. Sometimes we talk about relationships. Sometimes we'll talk about just life. Sometimes we'll talk about, like I say, my main thing that I like to bring up is about the potential. It's in people.
We also talk about issues like living in the past at the expense of the present. Let me say that again. Living in the past at the expense of the present. So the past is robbing you of the present moment, of the present right now experience. Yeah. And how can you have a present experience? If you can't have a present experience, your future is already dark. You got to learn you have to get to the place where you unlock those shackles from your mind. Because see, we've been fed stuff all our lives. We've been minimized. We tell people all the time, don't allow other people to minimize who you are. Once you recognize who you are, look in the mirror. And what do you see? You should automatically start saying, I see a winner. I see goals already met. I don't think about if I do this and if I do that. I say, I'm already a doctor. I already have my doctor. I already have this. I already possess that. You don't have to physically see it, but you have to know it in your mind's eye. And once those shackles fall from your mind, let me tell you, who can stop you? Nobody. Hello, somebody. Nobody.
So do you have a certain day and time where we can tune in and catch the live?
It's usually on Wednesdays.
Okay.
And that's usually around.
Well, we have been doing lately around 9.
Yeah, around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So we are the Turners.
We are the Turners.
And we dropped it in the chat before, we'll drop it again. Let's go and talk a little bit, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience, and I see some are already coming in. You've written several books. I mean, you guys have a collection. One of the books you've written is Reflections 180. It's a collection of quotes and poems, just really to reflect. You wrote it about 2017, 2018. Tell us about the book. Did it forecast what is going on in the world today? Did it predict? And also, how can we get a copy? Tell us more.
Well, yeah, a lot of my writing was done early morning, and I didn't realize then the things that I was writing I was really projecting future events. And everything that you see going on, taking place in the world today, I was writing about it then and didn't realize, when I talk about living in motion, about love, how it fills the skies. When I talk about, getting people, they're so upset and they're so angry in the world, so how do we deal with that? So I was thinking about those things then, but I had no idea what America and the world will be facing in this time. You could, like we talked about, time is what really sets agendas, right? And I remember Minister Farrakhan said, You can be doing the wrong thing you can be doing the wrong thing at the wrong time and not get a good result. So you have to be, time picks you, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Time chooses you. You don't choose time. Time chooses you. It's like when you're sitting there and you quiet your physical body and you quiet your mind and listen. See, we can read all the scriptures in the world, but it's that small, still voice. And you wonder, yeah, did you hear that? But it was just for you. And the moment that you recognize that and you move upon that, the world starts opening up. And that's the same thing when I was writing this book. And I thought to myself, I said, like for example, stumbling blocks to greatness. There's always going to be stumbling blocks in our way. Come on, somebody. There's always going to be people, naysayers. There's always going to be people trying to convince you, don't do it. You know, your parents tried that and it didn't work out for them. But you were called for such a time as this. So what are you waiting on? So when I wrote this, I thought, oh my goodness.
Look, when he first was writing, he was just doing it by hand. And I typed it up for him. And some of them I would catch it and I said, "Ooh, Dad, let me read this, Clarence. Let me read this to you." And I'd read it to him. He said, "Ooh, that's good. Who wrote that?" I said, "You did." I'm just typing it up. But what's amazing is like you said, he would just write it out, and it was profound even back then. But now, as we see the times that's come around, we realize that, wow, you talked about that,
And I write do a little clip every morning in the community that we live in. And I did, I was just to be doing something, and I was always uplifting. And I didn't realize how many people was actually reading my posts until we went to a function and said, "Are you Clarence that writes those poems and different things?" I said, "Yeah, thank you so much." One lady said, "Well, she was in the hospital." And that one of the things that I had written was really lifted her up. And yes, we can make a difference. The world is waiting on us. See, the world always knew who we were, but we never knew who we were. Once we recognize who we are, okay. Once we recognize who we are, the world gets nervous. Then they want to hide the truth. Oh, they know too much. Oh, they reading? Oh, we need to ban these books. We need to stop that. Oh, he has a voice. She has a voice. Woman, you do your thing, man. Do you know who you are? When you release, you got to let go and let the Creator do what he do for you and keep moving.
So when you wrote Reflections, that was more about poems. You've done the book on the Tuskegee Airmen. What other books have you done? And then we'll take the questions out of the chat.
Well, we did one that was a couple of years ago, 38 and counting. That we were married 38 years then. And that was really fun because I interviewed other couples who were in relationships to give suggestions what to do and how to do. So I did that one. That was 2017, I think. And then I've done several that are really memoirs from elderly people, like I really love to do. It's fun just to, gentleman that's like 87, another lady was 89. Her husband was a World War II veteran, so I was able to write her story, several memoirs like that. And then, of course, I did Woman to Woman, Discovering the Divine Authentic You, my favorite. And by the way, he put a poem in there, and I wanted to bring this up. I know we're ready to go, but we were talking about why it's important for us to come to realize who we are. One of the things that I ask in the book is, for Clarence mentioned, to look in the mirror. When you look in that mirror, I want you to look at yourself in the face, in your eyes, and say, what would I accomplish if I knew I wouldn't fail? My daughter-in-law told me, it's the first person that told me to do that, and I did it. And for me, it was like awakening, because what would you do if you knew? And I added, if I couldn't fail, what if you can't fail? No matter what it is, what would you be? What would you accomplish? But we all stop before we get started, because we automatically think, well, it's good for so-and-so, but probably not me. But what if you could do anything? What would you do? What would you be if you could be anything you wanted to be? You know,
because we both were adopted, and we didn't know that at first when we first met, but we both were adopted. And just so happened one day I was sitting on the couch, and I was so just, reminiscing. See, and I wrote this poem, Left Behind. And in that poem, towards the end, I said, what did God see in me that I didn't see in myself? And the answer was, he saw himself in me. He saw everything that I had ever wanted to be or hoped to be, or everything that he planned for me to be. So when the Creator sees himself in you, you cannot fail. We're where we are right now because we believe that there's nothing too hard, nothing too difficult that the Creator, our God, cannot do. He can do all things, and he can do them through you.
Absolutely. And you say, what is it that God sees in me that I don't see in myself? The problem is we don't see him in us. We see lack. We see, imperfection. We see all these terrible things. But if we could see ourselves as God sees us, and then act on it. And I believe that in Proverbs it says he will give you the desires of your heart. If you put your trust in him, he gives you a desire. Why? So he can give it to you.
Yes, sir.
If you New Testament says, if you're a father, your child asks for bread, you're not going to give him a stone. You're not going to ask for meat. You're going to give him what he asks for. How great is our God? That if he can see himself in me, why can't I see him in me? And then when I see that he has given me a desire for something, it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. He wants you to have it. He's not so like some of us who dangle that carrot in front of your face so you can't get it. He gives you that desire so he can give it to you. But you got to believe him for it. Don't let me get started up in here.
No, you get this. You're inspiring. You're getting us motivated. We really feel, especially for Wednesday too. Someone. Okay, so we got some questions, and thank you for that. Let me go back up here. How did the Army, and this is for both of you, how did the Army shape the way that you live your lives today?
Well, one of the things is we learn to adapt, improvise, and overcome. And we've carried that throughout our lives, that time selects us. Everybody is where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. It also taught us discipline. It also taught us that no matter what we go through, the sun is going to shine tomorrow. No matter what we're going through, it might be challenging, but we always go back to that we know how to adapt, improvise, and overcome. We know how to lead. We know how to encourage other people. We see the potential in them before they see the potential. And all we do is just tweak it a little bit and encourage them. Child, go on. You know what you want to do.
And one thing that you said, you didn't mention that because we're active duty, you're never in the same place very long. I used to be envious of some of my friends that back home, they'd be in the same home, for, same town for years and have a family all around them and everything. One thing that we had to do is, as he said, improvise and adapt to where we are. And it created something not only for us, but for our children. They can easily get along with just about anybody. They can, they're very personable with people. They get friends easily. And it's because where we had to relocate all the time, you had to learn how to do that. And you can't hold a grudge or whatever. You just got to learn how to adapt, improvise, and overcome.
And overcome. That's it.
Thank you for that. This is a two-part question. Thank you from Ursula. Early on in your marriage, when you were raising your children and growing your marriage, how did you balance pouring into your children while also pouring into your marriage? What knowledge do you have now that you wish you would have had in order to do things differently?
Well, part of that was, of course, when we were in the military. I was in the military then on active duty. And of course, Annette she was raising the children.
I was out.
It seemed like every time that I would come back from the field, she ended up getting pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, how'd that happen? But I'm just saying.
Look, the first time we went to Germany, I was pregnant the whole time. Had one, next month I was pregnant again. What?
It's them watermelon seeds, I'm telling you. No, but so she learned to do it all. She had to be able to, she was the manager. And yet we didn't have a whole lot of time together because I was always on the go, going here, going there. But we learned to take, when you learn to take the time and you have to communicate. Yeah. And it's that communication and that support. And it takes courage to uproot from one duty station to another. If it just takes courage. It takes that 100% support of each other, knowing that she couldn't do it all by herself. And so the least I could do is when I am there, be present. You have to learn to be present with each other, and that starts at early on in your marriage. Be present. Learn that, hey, look, you do that very well. I'm gonna let you do that. I do certain things very well. She lets me do that, so there's never really a conflict, but you have to learn to do that.
And one thing that we had to do, as he was saying, we're up and moving all the time. I remember so many times when, say the first time we went to Germany, I remember a lot of the other wives would say, it's terrible, you're gonna hate it, you don't have your family, you can't call home, there were no clicks be going on when you're trying to call home, you couldn't call home, and you're just gonna hate it. And I was almost being sucked into the same ideology before I even knew anything. But something hit me one day. I realized that I got children, and it's up to me to make my family a home. So if anything's going to happen here, I'm going to have to do what I need, which is to make myself happy. And because joy is a choice, I chose to be joyous. So my children, when they would see me, they wouldn't see, because I was like all the other wives, ready to cry because I didn't want nobody family around. I didn't know anybody. But then if I did that, it was going to spew out onto my children.
And the other thing too is never take each other for granted.
That's true.
Never take each other for granted. Because the moment you start carrying on like that, then the other person feel like, well, why bother? Why should I go out my way to try to please this person or that person? Because they don't care.
Yeah. And it's tough, especially in the beginning, because you're trying to get to know each other. And then you end up getting pregnant. You got this baby, and you got to figure out, how do I make time? I remember I think it was Brenda. I was so sleepy, and he was gone all the time. I was so sleepy, and only thing that woke me up in the middle of the night was her bottle. It fell out of my hand and rolled across the floor. It woke me up. But I remember that I couldn't let those things affect me like I wanted, like I felt like I could, because I had a family to consider. And then when, like he said, when he was home, we had to look, I put the babies to bed early because Jesse and Brenda were like, Jesse's a month apart in birthdays, they were back to back. So I tried to get them to sleep so we could have a little bit of time to ourselves, because you can't You know, you can have this family environment all the time, children, all the time, all with that concentration on the children, but you forget about the two of you. And you can't be good parents if you're at odds and the children are over here, two separate, it's really two separate identities going on, a relationship going on between us and a relationship going on between us and our children. So that's got all balance for it to work.
And don't be afraid to talk to someone.
Oh yeah.
Don't be afraid to find someone who will be a good, effective listener. Not somebody that's, as soon as you tell them, child, you know, so-and-so, you know, the gossip of the town. You don't need people like that in your life. But find someone that you can confide in, that will listen. You don't try to sit there and try to solve their problems, but allow them to talk. And you be that effective listener. And believe it or not, once the conversation has stopped, they're like, oh, thank you so much for listening. Because some people just want somebody to listen to. And being in that environment, as military, it's best. You don't want a bunch of people that's going to a bunch of complainers. Find somebody that, you know what? We're going to make it through. It's okay. Because I know how to communicate and I know how to listen.
And I did have, when we were much younger in our marriage with the children and all that, I was blessed to know some seasoned families. So I was able to communicate with, you know, and talk to them. Like he said, I found someone they've been married, like we are old. I was about to say, I was gonna say, oh, they were probably 40. Oh, no, that's us. But anyway, yeah. But we found someone that we could communicate with who had experienced some things. So, and she was very helpful, very helpful.
Well, for our final question, I think this is a good question. Thank you so much from Lisa. What advice do you have for grandparents with grandchildren of color?
Well, it depends on, are the parents available? Are you trying to raise your grandchildren, or are you letting the parents raise the grandchildren? Because when I remember when I had my first child, and he went to Germany, I went home, and I think she was maybe 3, and she did something that was ridiculous, and I popped her little butt. My mom had a calf. Well, I guess you think you're grown, you're beating at you. I barely tapped her butt. And for me, I thought, who was her mother? It was my responsibility for this child. And for grandparents, it's challenging because you're in a different place than you were when you were younger, you know? And you can offer advice, and of course, the grandchildren can do no wrong, but you do have to set your limits. You still have to balance the children and the parents. Don't set them against each other, because little people are smart.
And give them plenty of candy, so when they get all hyped up,
When
you
you go home,
you go home to your mama and your daddy and go worry them.
Look, we really want to thank you for coming out. Let's see your applause or your emojis in the chat. We really just want to thank you so much for being with us this past hour. We definitely put how to reach you in the chat and more to come. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Frida Kay to give us more information. And thank you so much once again, the Turners.
It's our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Turner, for a wonderful evening. Well, if you enjoyed them, we will be having a premiere of BIPOC in America for seasons 2, 3, and 4. Miss Annette is featured in season 2, and the Turners are featured in season 4. So if you are in the Orlando area, please come out and continue to enjoy the Turners. Currently, we do have early release tickets on sale. for $25 and VIP 100. If you want to be able to get tickets, you could go to BIA Network on our Facebook page under events, or you can go to Eventbrite at BIPOC in America Orlando Premiere. If you enter Annette or Clarence, you'll get $5 off. Also, we really enjoy having the Turners here with us this evening. So please interact with them on their Facebook page at We Are the Turners and their website, wearetheturners.us. They would love to be able to see you interact with them, and you can go to their website to get their products and see their books. Come back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. We have another lineup. We have Chris Rapley, Ruben Butler, Reverend Rashonda Butler, and Dr. Pia Scott. Please come out and join the conversation. And finally, we would love for you to interact with us on Facebook at BI Network, or if you're on Instagram, that is b.i.a_network, as well as if you want to see season 1, please go to BIA Network and you can see season 1 episodes. And coming in November 6th, we'll release season 2. Thank you. And I turn it back over to you, Dr. Cat.
Once again, thank you for coming out to see the Turners. We hope to see you back next week. Bye. Good night.